Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of Senior Showcase. We've got the college edition, and very cool. We have a 2016 graduate of Prairie Ridge High School, and want to introduce everyone to Katie Lamb. How you doing, Katie?
Hi, everyone. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate you taking the time. If you don't mind, just to take a minute and just share what you've been doing the last 4 years, and then we'll kind of dive into it.
So I just graduated from The Ohio State University. I got a BS in pharmaceutical sciences and a minor in business. I was an honors student and graduated with honors distinction, which I'm very happy about. Some things I was involved in, I was in a sorority, Alpha Gamma Delta, that gave me some really good leadership opportunities where I got to hold some director positions and eventually a VP position, which taught me a lot of leadership and just how to lead girls in my sorority, which was awesome. I've held a job the past 4 years at COSI, which is kind of like the Science and Industry Museum here in Chicago, but in Columbus, where the University of Ohio State has a lab of pharmacy there, and I run simulation dummy exercises with some of the children to go through different scenarios. So our simulation dummy Bob might have diabetes or a heart attack, and we work through diagnosing his symptoms and then treating him and then delivering him on his way. And I also do some interactive video conferences throughout that as well, where I get video it in to some high schools or community colleges and do a presentation on opioid use and drug addiction and stuff like that, which is super cool. And I've been really lucky to be able to do that. And it's a great job. And I've had an awesome boss who is also one of my professors. So I've loved that. Some other things I've been involved in is something called College Mentor for Kids. And that's where we get local elementary school kids from around Franklin County, and they come to Ohio State's campus once a week. And we get a little buddy that we get to mentor through. So my sophomore and junior year, I had a little buddy. And then his name was Isaiah. He was awesome. And then he graduated, so he went to middle school. So I then became a GM, a general manager, where I oversaw an entire grade. So my grade was third grade. So that was really fun. It was a little different here and there to have a little buddy and then oversee and kind of be a leader over buddies other than just have a little friend of mine. And then the other thing I was really involved in was called MedLife, which is a medical brigade club where we send medical brigades on like school breaks, so fall break or winter break or spring break to less fortunate countries, and we take the medical brigades to some rural areas and provide healthcare to those people who aren't very close to healthcare facilities so that they can get the things that they need. So that's kind of an overview of the things I've been involved in.
Wow, when did you have time to study?
I was studying all the time, trust me. But yeah.
Now I know it seems like, well, duh, of course I went to The Ohio State University. But think back when you were a junior at Prairie Ridge, what kind of went into your process, and walk us through kind of what your choices were and how you arrived at that.
Yeah, my whole life I've grown up, obviously I have two brothers. I don't know if everyone knows that, but I have two brothers. I'm an only girl. I've grown up super sporty, always into sports, always at my brother's baseball, basketball, and football games. So I've always been into sports. I knew I wanted to go to a Big Ten school and really be in that atmosphere. My dream school is actually Madison, Wisconsin. And I applied there, and they have late acceptance, so they don't really accept until February. So I knew I had gotten into Ohio State probably in October, and I had visited 3 times by the time I found out I had gotten into Madison. And by that time, I had just fallen in love with Ohio State, and it was too late to save. But I loved Ohio State's campus, their life, and then something super cool to their school was that they have a pharmaceutical sciences program, which is not very common in other places, where I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to medical school or PA school or pharmacy school. And so this program hits all the prereqs for all three of those while I was able to decide throughout my college career. And then I got a lot of money to go there, so that's a big bonus always. So
It's a
yeah,
no-brainer ultimately.
yeah.
Well, let's look at let's look at the social side here first before we get on the academic side. So you mentioned your sorority.
Yep.
What was that? What's that like? And I have some familiarity with how they do it down south, and I think they're a little crazy.
Yeah, we're definitely not as similar to down south. Only about 10% of our student life is involved in Greek life, which is when you go to school like Ohio State with that many undergrads, it's not really actually that many people. I did not rush as a freshman. I thought I was not interested in that. Like I said, I wasn't super girly, and I've always had lots of guy friends and stuff. So I was like, I don't think that would be for me. So I passed it up my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I wasn't bored, but I wanted to really get involved in something else. And I had seen through some of my friends the leadership opportunities and the volunteering opportunities and social, obviously, that they got from that.
Yep.
So I thought I'd give it a try, and I am so glad that I did. I not only met some of my best friends, but like I said, I got some unmeasurable leadership experiences and volunteer experiences that I would have never gotten. But that social scene is nice. It really allows you to meet so many more people from the university that you otherwise really wouldn't have gotten to, which is awesome. And
I'm sorry.
no, you're okay. 3 of my roommates, so I have 7 roommates, or there's 7 of us, so I have 6 other roommates.
Okay.
So 3 of us were in the same sorority, and then my other roommates were not in a sorority. So, I mean, that kind of balances out. So I had kind of both to go between, which was really nice. So I liked that a lot.
Now, since you kind of have both sides of the fence and you waited a year, what are some pros and cons? So any students looking to go forward and exploring, well, should I do Greek life? What's true? What's not? What would you say to that?
Yeah, so I waited. We rush in the spring, which is a little different than most schools that rush in the fall. So I had kind of had my really core friend group already, and I was lucky enough to meet those girls my first week of college, which is very unusual for most people. You usually don't meet your best friends freshman year, newsflash, but I was lucky enough to. And so I was kind of content in that sense. And a lot of people I knew were joining because they wanted to find a closer knit group of friends. So I kind of shied away for a little bit. But after I saw all of the other things that it brought them, other than just friends, I was all in. Like I said, it brings volunteer opportunities. It brings leadership opportunities, and it's nice to have set socials like date parties and formals and sisterhood retreats and stuff like that. But it brings multitudes of things, and I would recommend it to anybody. I mean, if you don't like it, then you can drop it, but it really is an opportunity to put yourself out there, and you find yourself in an organization where the people around you are a lot like you for a reason, and you're in that sorority for a reason.
Great. Now, are the sororities and fraternities in a Greek row per se at Ohio State, or were they located?
Yeah, we've had a lot of construction. So we used to have, it's 15th Avenue, and most of them are along that or a street called Iuka, and they're off campus, all of them. But after they took a street light out, so now it's kind of closed off from getting there. But they're all generally around the same like 2-block area, which is really nice because, like I said, I have tons of friends in other organizations, not just my own. So to be able to walk so close between them and that kind of thing is really nice.
Now, Ohio State's what, about 50,000 students, somewhere in that
Yeah,
range? So
undergrad at least, yes.
how do people who are like terrified when they hear numbers like that, how can you make them feel like, no, it's different, it's not that big?
I'm the biggest advocate for that. It's not that big. I went there not knowing a single person, which is, my mom might say very much like me, but I would say I grew up with a lot of the same friends my whole life. So that was kind of unlike me. And my twin brother went 6 hours the other way. So I was very nervous at first, but it's really easy to make friends. You just talk to the people in your dorm, talk to the people around you and in the same organizations. But I personally don't think it's that big. I can walk north to south campus in about 15 minutes if I'm hustling to class. And for me, that's not that big, but it's big enough. When you first visit, it's a little daunting. You're looking up at the skyscraper lecture halls or buildings, and they look huge. But once you're about a year in, it's easy to get around and see everything, and it's not as big as it seems for sure.
Okay, so once you got on campus, it's the fall, so obviously we know some sport that tends to be big at Ohio State in the fall. Take us
Yes.
through that. What's the game day experience like, and what happens on campus?
Yeah, so we call it block, which is technically our tailgating. So we don't go and tailgate at the stadium, unlike some other schools. We have block, as you call it. So those are held at the fraternities and their annexes. And so we'll go there and kind of party pregame together and get all excited. And then everyone walks to the stadium together about 30 minutes before the game starts. And we all start getting into the stadium, and we get to do group seating. So you can, when you buy your tickets, you can say that you want to sit with certain people so that you can sit with your friends, which is really nice because you do have assigned seats. But it's not that hard to get to other sections if you really want to. When my parents visit, I get them student tickets and they come and sit in the student section with us, and they love it. But it's unlike anything else to be sitting there surrounded by masses and masses of people cheering on a football team. And I always loved PR football games and the feeling of being there and being like one big community. And this is just that on steroids, essentially. It's so many people. It's so loud, fireworks going off, the band. So I love football games. That's one of my favorite things about Ohio State.
I'm blown away that parents could sit in the student section, huh?
You're supposed to have your Buck ID to get in, but never been asked for it. So yeah, usually I'll buy my parents student tickets because they're a lot cheaper. So
Yeah. And I imagine your dad probably enjoyed that.
oh yeah, my parents get to relive their college experience all over again. So they definitely like it too. They get to go party at block with us, so then go to the games and sit in the student sections. And you know how students are, they get all rowdy and they do their chants and stuff. So it's fun for them to kind of remember those days again.
Yeah, big difference from Purdue, though, I think. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think Purdue was like
He
that.
won't admit it, but I wouldn't say they're for sure a football team, that's for sure. Except they have beat us, I'll give them credit. So where credit is due.
Oh, that's right. They did a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, that was a heartbreaker. I've never lived that down from my dad, that's for sure.
Oh, I could imagine. Why don't you share more about your family since you brought them up,
Yeah.
and just who they are and
So my mom and dad both went to Purdue. That's where they met. My mom went to Butler for a year. She's a year older, and she played softball and was on the band. And then she transferred to Purdue and met my dad, and happily ever after. She's a pharmacist, and my dad works for Chase Bank. And then I have a twin brother, Corey, who goes to Iowa State University. And he has one more semester to go, so he'll be graduating in December.
awesome.
And then my younger brother, Colin, who is 2 years younger, just finished his sophomore year, and I convinced him to come to Ohio State with me. So I love having him there. We make sure to get together and get lunch at least once a week, and it's nice to have family a little far away. We're about 6.5 hours away, so it's nice to have family there and someone always.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you same thing with Colin. You convinced him not to look at UW.
I did. I know we were actually both between UW and Ohio State, and I was like, you have to come. I swear, like, you won't regret it. And from what he says, it's one of the best decisions he's made too. So I'm glad that he's had a similar experience too, and that he's loved it. And he's done a lot of different things than I have too. He didn't join Greek life, but he joined a business fraternity and he works part-time. So he's had a lot of different experiences from me, but has still gotten a great experience, which just goes to show how diverse a big campus like that can be to fit the needs and wants that you want to get out of it.
That's awesome. Now, with when you look at, okay, football rules at Ohio State, but what obviously plenty of other social activities and things for students to do. What are some of those other things that were just fun that you enjoyed doing throughout the year?
Yeah, so I've been someone who's a big advocate to try and go to a sporting event of almost everything. So the only thing you pay for ticket-wise at Ohio State is football and then basketball.
Mhm.
So my freshman year, I got basketball tickets and I went to a couple of those games and those were super fun. And we've actually been getting a little better as a basketball team. We say we're not just football. So those have been really rowdy and fun to go to as well. And that's fun because you're more compact and you can hear a lot more. It's way louder. So I've been to a couple of baseball games. I love baseball. I've grown up watching my whole life. I went and saw Travis Pietrowski actually wrestle against our Ohio State team, which was awesome because Travis is one of my best friends. So that was super cool to be able to go and see him wrestle and in his element. I've been to a lacrosse game. I had never ever seen a lacrosse game before, but I have a lot of New York friends, so that's a real big thing in New York. So they've
Sure.
gotten me to go to a few of those, and those are super cool. We have something called OUAB, which puts on activities for our students. So they'll bring in like comedians or stars and they'll do talks and stuff like that. So I've seen a few comedians come, we saw, I'm trying to think, like a Mythbusters guy come, and then they put on our spring concerts. We get 2 free concerts, one a semester where they bring some big people in. So that's been fun too.
So what's the Katie Lamb concert go to? I'm not sure what your music tastes are.
I'm a big country girl personally. I've always loved country, but that's not a big, they don't ever bring country people over. It's some rappers and you kind of vote for who it is. So the student body will vote between like 3 or 5 people of who they want and then whoever gets the most votes. So we had ASAP Ferg. I'm trying to think who else. We had Flume.
You know, this is like going
I
right.
know. If I said those words to my parents, they'd be like, are you just saying random words from the dictionary or what? But yeah, no, they try and mix it up. We did have a fall concert of a country star one time. So they definitely, we had Kesha my freshman year. So they definitely try and bring in everybody.
Got
They
it.
had Kevin Love talk, and he was supposed to come right after spring break. So obviously, since things were canceled, they did a Zoom Kevin Love talk, which I thought was super cool that they still set that up and that he was still wanting to do that. So yeah, they try and do everything, which is really nice.
Nice. Now, do you guys have like one main rec center, or is there multiple gyms on campus, or how's that work?
Yeah, we have multiple gyms, but there's one like bigger, newer one, and a lot of money put into it. You can tell it's right next to the stadium, actually, so you'll probably see it when they do the aerial views of our games, but it's called the RPAC.
Okay.
And they have these really pretty red windows. There's like a walkway with the red windows. So that's our main RPAC. It's 4 floors, I think, and they have a huge dining center in there for like healthy foods, and they have all sorts of equipment, classes, swimming pool, whatnot.
Rock
And then on
rock
each campus,
climbing.
yeah, well, we actually have a different facility for the rock climbing. That's called the Arc, where they do a lot more outside activities. They even have like a skydiving class you can take and
Oh,
learn.
cool.
Yeah, but and then on each individual campus, they have a smaller gym that's more accessible if you don't want to walk all the way there.
So what's a typical freshman housing like there?
So When I started, we did not have as nice of dorms, I would say, but my brother was fortunate enough to get in one of the nicer dorms. So there's three options. So you can either do a double, which is common. They built probably 8 new dorms the year before I came that had tons of doubles or 8-person rooms, which a lot of the sophomores will get. What's different about our school is you're required to live on campus for 2 years instead of just 1.
Okay.
So a lot of the nicer dorms obviously go to the sophomores because they get to pick first. So they'll take the nicer rooms. I lived in a quad my freshman year for my first semester, and then I transferred over to a different campus and lived in a double. I like the double more personally, but the quad was just a little too compact, but I wanted to do that just going there since I didn't know as many people. I thought it would give me a greater opportunity to just like get to know more people. And then my sophomore year, I lived in a 6-person room. So it was 3 doubles, and then we had a common room all connected together with my best friend. So we got to all choose to live together that time, which was really nice.
Now, how did you choose your roommates the first time?
The first time I went on Facebook, we had a Facebook group of Ohio State 2016 or class of 2020, and you would go on and try and find roommates. I met 2 girls that I liked, and we found another girl. Then we chose to live together, and they were nice. I don't really talk to them anymore, but we didn't leave on bad terms per se. But I lived on North Campus, and all of my friends that I met freshman year lived on South Campus. So when we would go out at night and have to walk home, my parents didn't really like that I was walking home alone by myself and stuff like that. And I felt I was missing out on a lot of stuff when I was over on North. So I actually transferred to South Campus into a double my second semester and was there with all my best friends and stuff.
Is that closest to where most of your academic buildings were?
So the way Ohio State is set up is North and South Campus are the bounds of the university campus. So all of the classes are right in the middle. So it doesn't really matter, I would say, which side you live on, except if you're in business. Business is on North Campus. But besides that, they're pretty in the middle. And then I actually have classes at the Med Center just because of my major. So they were kind of far from either side anyway. But it got me exercise and got me walking. So I tried to take the bus as least as possible so I could get my exercise in every morning. But yeah.
So freshman year, kind of what were the struggles of balance, and how did you manage I want to get involved and have fun, and yet I gotta hit the books. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, my first week at Ohio State was actually really rough. I mean, my mom will tell you she was like torn apart my first week. My roommates were people who came from only about 15 minutes away from campus. So they all lived in Ohio, and they all had groups of friends already. And we have the involvement fair and convocation and like Buckeye Frenzy. So these are all big things that you go to meet people and sign up for clubs and stuff. And I really wanted to go, obviously, because I didn't know anybody and they weren't really interested. They already had friends, already kind of knew stuff about it. So I went by myself and walked around and stuff. And I don't know, my mom was devastated because I hadn't met my friends yet. And I remember calling her on the phone crying. I was like, I'm not going to make any friends. Like, I'm not going to like it here. It's too big. And that seems so silly coming from me, but coming from PR, I was involved in so many things and had so many different groups of friends that was just always something that I had. I was given the social butterfly senior superlative or whatever it's called. So that was never something I struggled with. So going there and having to kind of build that up again was a little difficult for me, eye-opening, but it definitely helped me and made me realize and persevere. And I ended up meeting my best friends literally like 3 days later at a dining hall. I just went up and sat down at dinner next to a group of girls, and I was like, hi, I'm Katie, and what are you guys in? And just started talking to them, and they're still my best friends right now. We all live together. We have for the past 3 years. So I would just say be yourself, and also like it is a perfect time that if you want to reinvent who you are and what you want to be, then this is the time to do it. If you're going into your freshman year, there's no better time, and there's not very many opportunities in your life that you're going to be able to do that. So it's a clean slate for you if you want to do that. And if not, then just keep being you. And there's people for everyone. That's my thing. I mean, especially at a big campus. But yeah, it was difficult to really put yourself in your own schedule, because in high school you go from class to class and you have a schedule already. So some people only go to class 3 times a week instead of every single day, and you go maybe only to 1 class a day and you're done. So you definitely have to be strong-willed, and I'm someone who needs a routine in order to thrive. So I just had to build that for myself. Essentially, I would go to class, go to the gym, go to the library, go to my clubs or whatnot. But that's how I did. Is I have a color-coded calendar that looks pretty crazy, but for every single thing in my life, every class is a different color, every club I'm in, my work. But that's just how I am, and I need to be able to cross off things when I'm done with every assignment, every homework. But that really helps me, as I can get up, see what I have to do for the day, and then also keep myself in a routine. I'm a big work hard, play hard person, so I really hit the books early in the week so that I can go out and have fun with my friends later in the week, because I think that's a huge, huge thing. I'm a big advocate for that by no means you should be staying in and studying every single second of your life. You only get to live college once, so.
Now wait, so color-coded on an electronic schedule or on a normal calendar?
Handwritten.
You're going old school?
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm an old school girl. It's not even a little planner that I get to bring around with me, but I have it hanging in my room. And during syllabus week, I take all my syllabi and I go through for the entire semester and write down every single assignment. Each class gets a different color. Each club gets a different color. And I even have a color for all my friends' birthdays. That's something I do so I can remember everyone's birthdays. I go through Facebook and write down everyone for the month or for the semester. So
Wow.
but,
And that,
yeah.
but that's a great, I mean, everyone thinks they have to do everything electronically,
Mhm.
and sometimes learning isn't
I
effective as
actually
well,
have
you know?
been a non-electronic person for a long time. I think my first whole 3 years through junior year, I took handwritten notes every single day in class. I was super adamant about that. I had read that if you write your notes, you remember them better and you learn better. So that was something I was super strong on. And then I took online classes last summer. I took 2, and so that was all online. I took my notes online for the first time. And then this year, finally, I started taking my notes online. So I'm transferring into the technology world. But yeah, I was always kind of old school. I like pen and paper.
No, that's terrific. So obviously very disciplined, because it probably took you a couple days to literally go through, or maybe not, to go
I like to
through.
sit it down and get through it the
No,
whole time. But
no, that's great. And then when did you come up on a time in your first year where you kind of just boom, kind of hit a wall with any of your studies?
I would say not my first year, but my second year. So just the way our curriculum's set up, I took chemistry freshman year, and then sophomore year I was in bio and organic chemistry at the
Yeah.
same time. And I had never ever seen anything like organic chemistry before. And I remember on the phone with my mom walking to my very first exam, I was literally shaking. Like, I have never been someone who has been afraid of exams. I've been someone who very study forward, and I prepare for at least a week before. That's just always been how I am, and I have to work hard for my grades. I'm not naturally super intelligent. So I remember that was the first time I've ever been like actually terrified to go take an exam. I was sitting there just shaking and sweating, and my mom was like, "What is going on with you? Like, it's just a class. It's just an exam." And I think that's something so important to remember, because in high school, I was a straight A student, and I don't think I ever got a B on anything. And you go to college and you just have to like accept the fact that it's more about the education you're getting than getting straight A's, because that's near impossible. And people who can do that, hats off to them. But I just knew that that was not going to be something I was going to accomplish in my major, and in me wanting to be able to balance social and academic life. So you kind of have to just let go of that. And once you finally can, you kind of study better, because you're like, I'm going to study as best as I can. And obviously you prepare as best as you can, but you're going to get out of your exam what you put in. And in a class like that, I was not shooting for A pluses, that's for sure. I was shooting for just what I knew I could get. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So next steps now, on the academic side, what direction, where are you heading?
Yeah, so I'm taking a gap year, and then I'm applying to physician assistant grad program. So right now I'm kind of scatterbrained on where I want to go, but I'm thinking I kind of want to come back around here, at least stay in the Midwest. My mom's kind of saying to explore a little further, but I have some time to figure it out. But I'll be taking a gap year. I'm working as a medical scribe at the James Cancer Research Hospital in Columbus, which is a part of Ohio State's hospital. And I'm going to be working full-time there, hopefully 40-hour weeks. I want to try and make as much money as I can to save up and get as much experience as possible. And then I'll be studying for the GRE to take that for my grad school applications, and obviously working on my grad school applications.
So for PA school, you take the GRE?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And then and doing the medical scribe work, is that almost like credit towards PA because people expect you to be involved in the field or do a certain amount of work, or how's that work?
PA, it's actually really interesting. Not most schools, some schools require a certain amount of patient care hours. So some people get that by being an EMT, being a CNA, medical scribing, working at like a phlebotomist's office or stuff like that. So it just makes sure that you get in there, you understand patient care, you understand the field you're going into. And some require 200 to 300 hours, and some require upwards of 1,000 to 2,000. So it really depends on the school and what they want. But yeah, that's essentially why I'm doing it, but also to get the experience and get myself in there and make sure I'm putting myself in the right path.
Now, is there a certain PA program that you have a 2 or 3 that you go, hey, I really want to get into those, or no?
I honestly haven't been looking too much into it. Ohio State doesn't have one. If they did, my heart would lay there. I would love to stay at Ohio State. But they don't have a program, surprisingly enough. I've been looking at Marquette. I know Lizzie Van Dorn is going to Northwestern, and has to be a good program because she's one of the smartest people I know. And I've been there's Ohio Dominican, so I'm kind of bouncing around. I'm not very set anywhere yet, but I'd say Marquette has caught my eye the most so far.
Oh, nice. So you definitely, mom will be happy. Now, you said mom wants you to expand your horizon?
Yeah, surprisingly enough, she was the one crying when I chose Ohio State over Madison, and now she was like, why don't you look at like West Virginia or the Carolinas or Boston? So
Sounds like mom wants to move.
yeah, no, mom wants to move for sure. Mom wants a lake house.
There you go.
But,
so you're gonna head the gap part. Still enjoy being on the college community because Columbus is a great town.
it's a great
For
town.
students or tourists. Obviously, once you were a junior and a senior, the whole town opened up to you, right?
Yeah.
So what were the places that, hey, as a junior and a senior at Ohio State, these are places you definitely go hang out?
Yeah, so there was a bar. It's now shut down, but it was called the O Patio and Grill, and that will forever have my heart. On Fridays, they do something called Beat the Clock. And so they have little fires and an outdoor terrace, and you get pitchers of beer. So at 1 o'clock, they're $1. At 2 o'clock, they're $2. So it just goes up from there. But once you get off your classes and it's the weekend, all the upperclassmen would head there and do that. A lot of places around there have happy hours for that, and they try and have discounted drinks. There's a dive bar called Midway, which will forever have my heart. But we try and go more towards downtown now that we're older and can. There's some bars called Gasworks and Brothers. So that's usually where we spend our Thursday nights. They have Thursday night deals. But
Okay.
yeah.
Now, what would be a good food place in Columbus? What's Columbus known for? What's something special in Columbus to eat?
So Blaze Pizza used to be, I know that's kind of everywhere now, but that used to be my freshman year. That wasn't offered anywhere. So I know every time my parents would come to visit, they'd be like, let's go get Blaze Pizza. And we would be like, okay. Some other places, there's a amazing Italian place called Forno that one of my roommate's moms is obsessed with. So we go there every single time she comes. I'm trying to think. Raising Cane's, I know that's not just in Ohio, but it's not in Illinois. So I know I have to get my chicken in before I come home for sure.
Yeah, don't tell the Chick-fil-A folks.
I
know. And so I'm sure, I know that you probably did some road trips while you were undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of campuses or other places did you go to, and what was behind them and why?
Yeah, so my freshman year and my junior year, Megan and James, they both go to University of Alabama. So I've been there twice to visit them. So Megan's my best friend. So we switched off years visiting each other for fall break. So she came to Ohio State her sophomore year. I went there my freshman and sophomore year. I loved it. I remember getting there and leaving, and I was like, I could never go to school here because I would never get anything done. And I props to them that they excel in school and that, because there's just always so much going on. And like you said, their Greek life is crazy and so much bigger. But I got to go to a football game there too, and that was awesome. I will say their football games are awesome. So I love ours, but that was a great experience for me. My roommates and I drove to Rutgers my sophomore year for the Ohio State Rutgers game. One of my friends from New York had a couple friends that went there, and that was super cool. Right behind their stadium, you see New York City skyline, and I've never been to New York City or New York before that, so that was super cool for me. And we made some stops along the way. We stopped at like the Pennsylvania Hershey factory and that stuff. And then I think I've obviously been to Iowa State. My twin brother goes there, so I've been there a couple of times, and I have some friends that go there, and that's super cool. And we got to tailgate. And then
you make it to Penn State, one of your big rivals, or Michigan,
No, my roommates went to Michigan this year, but my baby cousin was just born, so I had stayed, and I had already knew I wasn't going, but my heart was ripping to shreds as all of them were there because it looked like so much fun. But I'll definitely have to make it there when I can afford the tickets better, because those tickets go for quite some money. That's for sure.
Tell us about that, because I mean, obviously in the media you hear about that Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, or as you guys would say, the team north of the border, right?
Yeah, the team up north.
Yeah.
TTUN.
Talk about that a little bit.
I mean, you think it's like some hoax and some joke. You're like, okay, it's just a rivalry. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But you don't even see people from the other team, like, friends, because obviously Ohio and Michigan are very close together, and you would assume that Michigan and Michigan State would have a much bigger rivalry than we do, but that is not the case. They come and you don't even want them near you. You can't stand looking at their colors, like the chants, just everything. And I didn't even grow up like an Ohio State fan, and you just like feel this internal like need to want to be like, no, you're my rival. Like, I don't. But luckily we never lost to them. I think it would have been a bigger deal. But my freshman year was the year that we went to it was my very first Michigan-Ohio State game, and that was the year we went into double OT and probably shouldn't have won and did. And that was like by far the craziest experience ever. We rushed the field, and you just felt like you had just done everything, even though you're just watching from the stands. But no, it's crazy. Like parents, kids, just everything. Like you can't even say the word Michigan around people. They just get internally mad.
So at the tailgate or at the block,
yeah,
you can't, there's no way a Michigan fan could come over.
Not unless they're your best friends and you pull some strings, like you're in that frat and can pull some strings. Otherwise, they're not getting in because a lot of people are very strong against it.
Wow.
But yeah, I would say there's a lot of cockiness from both sides. You definitely talk your talk and walk your walk. But no, it's actually so fun to like just have that rivalry, and we prepare all week for the rivalry week on campus. They go around and they X out every single M on campus with red tape. No joke, no joke. Every single M on campus is X'd out with red tape, and someone, I don't know who goes
no
around.
Men's room?
No, nowhere. Like the lecture halls, if there's an M, they get an X over them. Like little plaques, they'll like do little X's over all the M's. It seems like the most ridiculous thing, but it is such a big deal, and it runs true in everyone's blood. And it really, now I feel like I have to live it on throughout my whole life. So.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that about the Xing of the M's.
Oh yeah, literally everywhere. So.
Tell us about the dotting of the I.
The dotting of the I, that's one of my favorite things. I think it's so fun. The guy with the big hat that runs up and he does his high kicks and he always dots the I. We love our band. We love our band almost not as much as our football team, but we'll all sit there and watch them perform before we get up at halftime and go and get food and go to the bathroom and stuff, just because I mean, they're so strong. We call them the best band in the land, and they really are good. There's kids from all over the country that come to just be in that band, and for them to get such recognition for, I would say when you're at a big football school, I feel like it's hard to get recognition, but everyone loves them and like cheers for them and stuff. So I think that's so cool, and just to see that. And they practice over by the pharmacy building. So when I walk from class every day, I get to see them practicing, which is super cool. And I'll just stand there and listen to them perform sometimes while they're practicing.
Cool. Any other traditions that are special to Ohio State?
Yeah, well, I will say one, it's not a tradition anymore, but during Michigan week, we used to have the Mirror Lake jump. So at night they would kind of regulate it. They learned that students did it, so they would put cops out and stuff, but they'd let you do it. And you would jump in Mirror Lake, which is a big lake on campus we have, and jump around and stuff in there. And you'd go at like 2 or 3 in the morning and do it, and everyone would go in, and it was that weekend right before the game. Unfortunately, a kid got really injured one year, and so we don't do it anymore. But I will say that was something that was like a big deal. I remember hearing about it. They were like, Mirror Lake jump, you're going to do that. And we did do it my freshman year, but after that, it was taken away. But I loved that.
How about when you graduate? You take a kiss under the rock, or you rub someone's head, or
yeah, so our big library is called Thompson Library, and there's this big statue of William Thompson out in front, and obviously everyone takes pictures in front of him, but actually inside of the library is a little head statue of him. And every single time you go in and out, you're supposed to rub his head for good luck on your next exam. And you're supposed to get bad voodoo if you don't do it. And I've never been able to not do it. I have to do it just because everyone else. But his head is actually like copper colored on top now and shiny from how many people rub it. But that's just something everyone does when they walk in and out of that library. Even if you're just walking through, when it's cold out, you don't want to walk around, you want some warmth. I still have to rub real fast before I go through.
So tell us about your Prairie Ridge experience and how it may have prepared you for what you've been going through the last 4 years.
I will say Prairie Ridge will prepare you extensively for any college you go to. Going to Ohio State and being with people from all over the country, all over the world, and kind of being able to see the education that everyone else has is really eye-opening for you, because you grow up in a structured kind of small town with the same people your whole life, and you don't really know anything other than it. So you think that's the way that everyone else's life is. But after going into Columbus and being in class with other people, like, I felt the transition was easy and seamless. I was in English classes that people were coming up to me and asking me how I knew to cite things and stuff like that. And that's just stuff you're taught. I mean, that's what we have to do in class. That's what's expected from you. And I just think the education level and the intensity at Prairie Ridge, like, overly almost prepared me for college, at least, because I felt immensely prepared when I went in. And I saw from some of my friends and classmates how underprepared they seemed. So that's one thing I'm so grateful for.
That's great. Now, you had mentioned, or no, you didn't mention that. I was going to ask you about a special professor or someone at Ohio State that kind of has helped you through.
Yeah, I would say there's two. So like I mentioned before, I work at COSI, and I had met my boss through a class at Ohio State, and she approached me and asked if I would be interested in working for her in the lab at COSI, and if I wanted to interview and stuff for it. And she said you had to do these presentations in front of people. And I was like, I don't know if I'd like that. I don't know if I'd want to be able to do that, or if I'd be able to, like, roll with the punches, or if I mess up, if I can keep going and stuff. And she kind of was like, no, why don't you come in and try it out? Like, we'll do some test runs, just see if you like it. If you don't, that's fine. She kind of pushed me and kept edging at me a little bit. And finally I went in, and I've been working for her for 3+ years. And like I said, I do those interactive video conferences for her. And she's kind of just been someone I always go to for questions. I know without a doubt that she's going to write me an amazing letter of recommendation for grad school. And just, she's pretty young too, so she's very relatable, and she's not that far out of her own pharmacy school, and she's just been someone that I can get guidance from of which professors to take, which classes not to take, and that sort of thing along the way.
And what's her name?
Her name is Cynthia Cannon.
There you go.
Yes. And then a different professor that I had most recently last semester, actually, his name was Zach Woods. And he was almost very fresh out of pharmacy school, and he was my favorite professor by far. It was the hardest class I've taken in my major. It was very medicine, diagnostic, and just specific disease based. It's called Molecules of Medicine at Ohio State, and it's a pharmacy class. And I didn't do as well as I wanted on my first exam. And I remember I went in and I was like, this is a 5-credit-hour class. Like, I really need to do good in this. And I love what we're learning. I'm very interested. I'm just not doing that well. And so I went in, and he was not only first, we didn't even talk about class the first 2 times I went in. He wanted to get to know me. He wanted to know about what I wanted to do with my future, why I was in pharmacy, why this class was so interesting to me, and kind of set me up. And then he worked with me and built me up. And he would make sure to put the class into a perspective of relating to college kids, because how are you going to teach stuff like that? You need to teach it to people and get their attention and say things in ways they're going to remember it. And he would make, like, bar jokes or references to try and get you to, I mean, you have to preach to your audience, you know what I mean? So he was so good at that. And I remember he almost just made me fall in love with learning again. Like, I remember enjoying his class and looking forward to his class every day. Since it was 5 hours, I had it every single day. And I remember it was just like a light to my day every single day. And I thoroughly enjoyed learning about it, and we were learning about like intensive care pneumonia and like stuff that's probably not that interesting to other people, but I remember like loving it. And I'd get on the phone with my mom and be like, did you know that you use this for this? And she's a pharmacist, so of course she'd be like, yeah, I did know that. Like, I've been doing this for 30 years. But she even said she loved when I would call and just talk pharmacy with her because she could tell I was just so excited about it.
Oh, that's awesome. So who created that excitement for you back at Prairie Ridge?
So I will say, without a doubt, every single teacher at Prairie Ridge has made an impact in my life, and I know so many of my friends' lives, and I can't name one bad teacher at Prairie Ridge. So I just will start by saying that. But during my time at Prairie Ridge, I would say Mr. Wadlington was someone that was that for me. I remember my junior year, I was in 3 or 4 AP classes and kind of in over my head. And I was in his AP Psych class, and I was the only junior in a class full of seniors, and I felt so out of place. And he would always, the way he teaches and brings students in and brings his own life into class was really something I loved. And obviously that was reflected in one of my favorite professors at Ohio State too. So I loved him. And I remember once the seniors graduated, we had about 2 or 3 weeks where it was just him and I, and we would kind of play cards and watch movies and stuff, because we had taken the AP test and all the seniors graduated, so it was just me, one junior, and him. So we would go on like walks outside and stuff, but we really got to know each other, and that was probably one of the most meaningful experiences. And then someone who I would say not only impacted my time while I was at Prairie Ridge, but still is Mrs. Steiner. I still text her and talk to her and email her back and forth constantly, just about life, about her grandkids, her cute grandkids. Mm-hmm. I've met her for lunch once or twice and stuff like that, but I know that she's going to be an amazing resource for me when applying to grad school, and I'm already asking her questions about that. And her daughter, Megan, who went through med school and residency and fellowship, she's been an awesome mentor and just guidance for me as well in that sense. But I still go and see Mrs. Steiner every single time I'm home. She's just a bond that I'll never break, and I still talk to her constantly. So
was she a big help in when you were going through the process to go to Ohio State?
She was. I mean, to be, funnily enough, one of the schools I really wanted to go to was Michigan. And how ironic, but I remember I visited and I liked it, but it's so expensive, and they don't give a lot of money and stuff like that. And she was just like, okay, well, you need to talk to your parents. And I remember telling her, I was like, I'm too scared to talk to them because I know that we can't afford it, but I really want it. And I knew that my parents would tell me to just go wherever I want to go and we'll figure it out. And that's always been something that she's used as an example with me, is just that she was so impressed that I totally nixed it out of myself. I didn't even end up applying because I was like, I know we can't afford this. And I'm a big believer that big schools and like Big Ten educations are all pretty similar anyways. So why pay thousands and thousands of dollars more to get a similar education? But yeah, she was a huge help in deciding that, and she's been a huge help in deciding for me between med school or PA school as well. So she's helped me with all sorts of things.
Well, that's awesome that she still is involved in your life. And
yeah, she actually connected me with Lauren about Ohio State just not that long ago, and so she kind of uses me as an ambassador because I gloat so much about it. I was like, you need to start sending more kids from PR to Ohio State other than just my brother, who I convinced myself.
Yeah, and Lauren's an impressive young woman too. She's She's going to
I
make
was
a
blown
great
away by her email, actually, and just how smart and sophisticated she was in her questions already and what she was already thinking about just going into her freshman year. But I was so happy and honored to be able to be that for Lauren, and I know Lauren will be that for somebody else in the future. But I love that she connects people with older students and people that are there, because that's where you get the best advice from people that are in it and living it right now. So.
And I remember you being surprised how we could talk an hour.
I know, and I'm looking down. It's been an hour.
All right, all right. In closing, okay, what don't people know about you, Katie? That only maybe your parents know. What's that weird, quirky thing? Maybe Megan knows. I don't know. What is something that people don't know about you?
I guess I could have a few. I'd say I'm a little OCD, as you could probably imagine from my planner. But I find that the best way for me to stay straightforward in every single thing that I want to do is being as organized as I can and being as prepared as I can going into it. So that's something I probably overly do sometimes. My room has to be perfect before I leave it and whatnot. I would say something else. I don't know. That's a hard question. What don't people know? I'd say I'm a pretty open book. I like to share things.
You can't touch your tongue to your nose or something like one of the students was able to do, can you?
No, I don't know. A fun fact is when I was younger, I fell off my toy chest and bit through my tongue. So
Oh,
I have a.
you still got the mark? Look at it.
It looks like I had my tongue pierced. I promise I don't, but.
Or you could tell someone when you want to say, hey, look how cool I was. Yeah. Well, it's a real pleasure, Katie. I appreciate you're a fantastic example. I love how you want to pay it forward to like what you're doing with Lauren and others and how people did it for you. And just thank you for just being awesome on and off, on and out of the classroom. And
Thank you so much for having me on here and for doing this. I think this is such an important and just nice thing to have. And I think that bridge between senior graduates from high school and senior from college is such a great thing, because they're entering such a new chapter in their life and we're just ending that chapter, but also entering a new chapter of our life. And like I said, PR is such a community that is just more than willing to help each other, and for us to be able to give them advice for these 4 amazing, amazing years they're about to enter is awesome.
that's awesome. Thank you so much. So well said. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much.
Everybody just